Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to welcome you to my webinar today, the Finance Leader's Guide to Right-Sizing Technology. We're going to have a little bit of an interesting perspective on this topic, as I always offer, and hopefully we will make you laugh and smile. We'll also inspire you to ask the right questions and have some conversations. And so when I talk about right-sizing technology, it's not only going to be focused on the solution themselves, but also about those relationships with your FinTech providers. And so we're going to talk about that as well, because it doesn't really matter if you have a Porsche in the garage. If it's broke and you can't fix it, I need some help with that, right? And so there's a lot more dimensions to right-sizing technology than I think are often covered. And so we're going to make sure that we hit that today. And just another note, when I say finance leaders, we have a lot of people on the call who are treasury leaders, maybe treasurer, assistant treasurer, treasury managers, but we also have folks also from the office of the CFO, CFOs, controllers, VPs of finance. And so really when I say treasury/finance, just put on your hat. We all are or should be in the office of the CFO. I want to thank our webinar partner today, Departmental. They share my commitment to thought leadership, but they also share my commitment to serving the treasury and finance professions. And so I appreciate their partnership, and they have been a longtime partner of mine, and they are doing tremendously well and some exciting things going on at Departmental. So I'm very proud to be a partner of theirs. So a little bit about our agenda today. So first, we're going to stop at the very top. So before we start talking about right-sizing technology, we're going to talk about defining treasury/finance success. The reason we're doing that is that for me, we've been talking about technology transformation, and the mindset that people need to have is that technology is really empowering our best practices. And so as treasury and finance leaders at the top level, we are charged with impacting performance within our departments, but also across the enterprise. And we should look at technology as a way to help us do that, whether that's making us do our tasks more efficiently or offering the ability to have data-driven decision-making and business agility. And then we're going to talk about some barriers to delivering value from treasury and finance. And so when we're trying to look at how do we optimize the value that we deliver from treasury and finance, let's take a look at some of the barriers that we might face, and then we can see how we can mitigate those barriers to success. But also in terms of right-sizing technology, we're going to want to prioritize right investments in technology. But really importantly, in today's world, especially if you're the CFO, you should be looking at this as a technology strategy. So even if you're the treasurer, you shouldn't just be saying, what do I need? What do I need for bank relationship management? No, it's about the office of the CFO. So how do we communicate, collaborate, and help people make data-driven decision-making? We'll do a little bit of a dive on some research, treasury tech, the current state of the union, things that we're seeing in treasury and finance, touch on FP&A a little bit, and then we'll break it down just a little bit, just because I want to give some examples. Talk about how to right-size treasury technology, and then focus a little bit more on finance technology and some of the FP&A space. And then we'll talk about how do you manage your relationships with your FinTech partners. And this is easier said than done. And this is really key to right-sizing your technology. Again, right-sizing your technology, to me, I don't know what the right word is. I'm going to come up with a new one here before we're done today, but it's right-sizing the technology and the relationships, right? Because that's really what matters. We'll talk a little bit about companies are always talking about, we have customer success team. Do your FinTech partners really mean that? And how do you inspire your FinTech partners to really help you achieve success, monitor, manage, communicate that with them? And then we'll talk about technology in your professional success. And so we'll take things in a little bit of a different avenue. And a few of those things are due to the fact that a lot of us are still working remotely, and our teams are doing so as well. And then as always, we'll offer some key takeaways. I want to let you know I'm happy to share a copy of today's presentation with you. We're going to cover a lot of ground as always, and I think it's helpful at times to have a copy of the slides. And Departmental will also be sharing you a link to the webinar recording if you'd like to listen to that again or share that with your team. And so again, copy of the presentation, Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's ERNIE at treasurywebinars, one word.com. So again, let's start at the top level, right? Let's talk about defining treasury and finance success. And so everyone loves polls, right? So I just want to get a sense. And so I've been doing research this year, and I focus more on the Treasury side, but I found that there is no consensus really on how Treasury teams define success, and the way that success is defined is probably not right. And so if you want to optimize the value that you offer, right, you want to be sure that you're aligned with your C-suite and your company's strategic objectives. And so you want to earn that seat at the strategic table, and we should be engaging the C-suite. This is what success in Treasury and finance is, right? We're all on the same page. This is how we define it, monitor, manage it, and communicate it, right? We need to communicate that as well. And how does that impact the key drivers of our company value? And so those are incredibly important. So I'm going to give you guys another maybe 5 or 10 seconds or so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a few different surveys. So we're going to look at some surveys around how do people define Treasury success. I'll speak to some survey results and what I've seen in terms of maybe the CFOs, how they define success, and then we'll talk about some of the changes that are being driven by CFOs in terms of processes from some survey results as well. So I think that gives us a way to really set the stage, because those of you heard a lot of different companies, it's a way for me to make sure that I'm speaking to all the different folks and as well as I can the industries as well. So let's go ahead, take a quick peek here before we move on. So I'm glad that over half of you agree or strongly agree, and so neither agree or disagree. So we've still got 42% of you, right? So that don't feel that you have a handle on that, right? And so this is important. And so hopefully this will inspire you to ask questions. If you want to have a conversation about metrics in Treasury finance, especially in Treasury, that's something that I've been working on and have some research and more research coming on that side. So just interesting to see. You would think everybody knows how to write what success means and what success looks like, right? And so at the end of the day, how are you going to be successful, right? What is success? You can't answer that question. I think that's a problem. And so some of you may have seen this before, but just metrics of Treasury success from a survey that I partnered on this year. And so just some interesting things. The metrics of success: free cash flow, operating cash flow. Those are important. I was thrilled to see employee engagement, right? And so that's incredibly powerful, and maybe I reach some people because I think that's incredibly important. If you go back up to the very top in terms of company success, what is it that really matters? We want to offer value to our customers. And who are the people that are going to allow us to offer value? Our employees. If our employees are engaged, right, they're gonna deliver more value to the company, and they're gonna allow us to deliver more value to our customers as well. And so happy to see that. Cash forecasting accuracy is a little bit lower than I usually see it on surveys, and that's a good thing. So cash forecasting accuracy helps us make a better decision, but it doesn't directly translate. It depends on what you're using forecasting for. And so another part of the survey, I looked at the uses of survey. Believe it or not, the biggest use was looking at capital structure. And so, your forecasting accuracy, I don't think that's incredibly important, as if you're managing day-to-day cash, right, you're making borrowing decisions or investment decisions every day. And so if you just look down here, we see cash management, right, is important. And a couple of things that we don't see. We don't see risk management. And when I've done other surveys, when you look at Treasury departments that are saying that they have the most interaction with the C-suite, the reason they get that seat at the table is because of the counterparty risk management, financial risk management, M&A things, and so we don't see those on there. And so we need to align those things, right? How are we offering value to the C-suite and then the company? If we don't have that, that's probably a reason we haven't been called to duty, other than maybe during COVID when cash became on the radar even more. And so just some of the missing metrics, and let's think about this, whether you're in Treasury or finance, right? In Treasury and finance, it's under our purview. Debt and investments, where are the metrics there? We didn't see those. What about counterparty risk? What about financial risk? What about operational risk? We did see customer engagement. We didn't see customer engagement. We did see employee engagement, right? Here's one that I've been championing for a while: time allocation, right? In the office of the CFO, Treasury, finance. How much time are your folks spending on value-add activities? manual activities. And so let's understand how our people are spending their time. And a lot of the value of technology that I've seen, especially in APAR and Treasury, has been allowing people to spend more time on value activities, not wasting time, not spending time on the phone with disputes with suppliers and customers that don't need to happen. And then a couple things that I'd like to see on Treasury: payment type allocation, and then what about our internal customers? And so again, when we're looking at the success, right, how is technology going to help us achieve success? Well, first we need to understand what that success is, right? So let's take a look at some business priorities from the CEO, CFO perspective. Sources Gartner. If you have a copy of the presentation, there's hyperlinks there, so happy to share those with you. These are pretty consistent with what I've seen. I was involved with CFO research several years when I partnered with the CFO Alliance, and then growth, right? Growth is something that's always up there. Customer is good. That's up 101%. So customer cost management, efficiency and productivity, I would expect that to be higher. And so just some interesting things on the business priorities there. Technology related, right? We see that. That's what we're talking about today. That's good news. 78%. And so just to kind of show you, right, on what those things are. But if you flip back to Treasury, right, having optimizing the movements of cash, giving us business agility, allowing us to react in real time, allowing us to run scenario analysis, those are things that empower our growth on all these objectives, right? Workforce, customer. We need to make sure that our people have the right information at the right time, and a lot of times that involves having the right technology to serve our internal and external customers. And then just a little more survey work, PwC, Pulse survey, process changes. So what are some of the process changes in strategic planning? What are their top agendas? Strategic planning, right, based on business conditions, and that's where technology is really key. I've also worked on some FP&A research, global FP&A research, and we found that a very small amount of companies, when we asked, had the ability to easily do scenario analysis. And so that's one place where you really want to take a look, because that really unlocks a lot of strategic agility for your company. Reliance on outsourcing. So just some interesting things. Where you stand is where you stand depends on where you sit, but strategic planning, right, and process changes, right? And so process changes, automation, right, enabling those best practices, and lower depend on institutional knowledge. That's where artificial intelligence can really help us there. And so what about some of the barriers that we're going to face here? Again, I mentioned this before: success is not defined. I should have asked a question about, but too many polling questions are not good. But how do you define success? And then there's people, right? And so even if you have the greatest technology in the world, you got to have the right people. And so you can have skills gaps, right? Your people can have technical skills gaps and soft skills gaps, but sometimes you have to have people with soft skills to get technology adoption. You have to have good training sessions. Your team dynamics can be, I call it, out of whack. And so that can be a barrier to your success. Your employees are not engaged. They don't enjoy what they're doing. They're frustrated. And so if people on your team are spending time doing all this data cleaning and things, meticulous things, shuffling paper around, they're not going to be engaged. They're not going to offer value. And again, too much time spent. Again, if you think about things, you can say, I make it too simple sometimes. Some people like it. Some people, most people like it. People, process, technology, right? To deliver the most value out of technology, you have to also think about the people in the process, and not only the people who are using the technology, but the people at your FinTech providers that are supporting your technology as well. And then you're on the process side, you can have manual or paper-based tasks. Obviously, there's some low-hanging fruit there a lot of times with the investment in technology. No consistency across the organization. Sometimes there's technology makes it impossible to do that, but also the right technology allows people to communicate across the world, allows people to message within the systems. It's really cool. Many years ago, it was just in Salesforce, but I've seen live communication in AR systems, AP systems, Treasury systems, right, and BI systems as well. So it's interesting. you can have silos that exist, and what does that do? It fuels process bottlenecks. So we want to look at streamline things, bottlenecks. And then the other thing that doesn't get enough attention is some of the mechanics of business, paying and getting paid. And even if you're looking at especially T&E stuff, we are wasting the time of our managers and our senior managers and our CFOs. So we need to make sure that we are cognizant of the things that we're doing in the office of the CFO that take up the time, of our leaders, especially our high value leaders. Everyone's high value, but again, you need to look at that. You can have a lack of visibility, and so that's me. To me, when I talk about how you right size technology, my nirvana is I have the 360 visibility into every aspect of the business. And so what that allows you to do is to understand the why. And so especially in Treasury, we just focused on what happened instead of why it happened. And so technology to me helps companies understand the why and ask the right questions, and even being able to do scenario analysis helps us understand the why and the drivers of success. And so again, people, process, and technology. And then here's some things. One of the things that I found, this was a long time ago when I was in Treasury, and so what was going on in our company was technology was dictating our business practices. And so there were certain terms and incentives and programs that we wanted to have to engage our new customers or new programs. We couldn't do it. That's because we were too far behind in our ERP system. And so that's the worst case scenario. And so it's sorry if you're from Houston, you have a problem if your technology is dictating your business practices. And so at the top line, which we'll talk about later, the first thing that you want to do to have is do a good assessment, right? What are all the pieces of technology internally and externally that are leveraged in order for folks to do their jobs in the office of the CFO. And so other barriers, disparate systems that don't play well with each other. I think we've made tremendous progress on that. I think it's been a long time now that I'm getting older. Way back when cloud computing just started to hit its stride, started with cloud ERPs. I think that was back in like 2009. But a lot of the solutions now are cloud-based, and the systems, most of the systems there are made to communicate with each other. So that's good. But then sometimes there's blind spots. Again, I talked about visibility. Can't manage what you can't see. You don't know what you don't know. And then technology can dictate a static environment. So we always want to be able to react. I mean, a lot of companies, no one could have predicted what was going to happen, in terms of COVID. But I think a lot of companies invested in technology because of that, because you have to be able to change work in business environment, but also your internal controls and risk mitigation things have to evolve as well. And then, at the end of the day, functionality, it inhibits the adoption of best practices. So it's always good to listen to webinars, whether they're mine or someone else's. It's great to know and look at research and see what others are doing. And it might be that you won't get there immediately, but at the end of the day, how are you doing something, right? Look in the mirror. What's the best practice? How am I going to get to that best practice, or does that, is that possible, right? Given what industry? I'm saying everything's probably possible, but it's a lot harder to get up climb the mountain, if you will, in certain cases. But the good news is that back in the day, technology was a competitive advantage for the bigger companies, but now it certainly doesn't have to be. And so let's just talk about barriers and misalignment. And so this is interesting from the PwC Pulse survey. It's so, the misalignment is, I know you have to say the difference between what somebody wants and what they need, but, they ask employees, right, what are things that make you more productive, right? They want schedule flexibility, benefits, they want to be engaged, they want to have opportunities for career development, right? You're going to company leadership and culture, and then you'll see on the other side, right? And then how those things are mapped, and you'll see there's a big difference there, right? Companies want purpose and values, and employees, hey, we're really offering that. Well, to me, that sees that the companies don't really, some of the employees maybe don't understand the value of that. And so what you see here just gives you some things to think about, right? So when you're thinking about employee engagement, you should be looking at technology that facilitates employee engagement. And guess what? I'm going to say you go out of the office of CFO, even for all your business systems, and you definitely need to be talking with HR as well, right? And so all these things are issues. And so it's not that you say, I'm going to focus on every one of these things every single day, but it makes you think. Survey your employees, what they want. That's how you engage them. What are we offering? And so you have to prioritize those things, right? And so you might want to spend all this money on something, but the employees really want this. And a lot of times I'm going to say that there's going to be this technology. Technology is going to be able to allow you to kind of upgrade things in bulk, right? And so especially in terms of AP and AR, what I see is that technology really removes a lot of the issues and allows you, and being able to work remotely allows you to have location flexibility, and connectivity. So it's just interesting. So this one I find really interesting as well. So again, I like to keep my ear to the ground on research as well as speaking to folks directly. And so let's take a look at Treasury and FinTech, Finance Tech, the State of the Union. I'm going to share some of the information that my partner shared with me at the recent 2021 Treasury and Finance Virtual Forum. And just interesting for those of you who really haven't been keeping up in terms of technology and investments, COVID, I hope we're starting to wind down, but I'm not really sure. So just a little information. Sorry, there's a lot of information on this slide, but it was surprising to me. I'm going to share with you some research from my friends at Strategic Treasurer. They started launching a survey with the Treasury Coalition, and Treasury Webinars is a part of that. And so it used to be weekly, and then it went to monthly. So really did a good job of staying on top of those things. And one of the things that we saw was that, and I was really happy to see that there really wasn't the technology drag, which really scared me. As a Treasury and Finance person who's always trying to be innovative, we've actually seen folks invest more, and I think people have learned that it's possible to do these investments, and you need to. And so, just some interesting, right? Started a project, and so 65% same schedule, and just some of the things between, and we didn't see the canceling, right, of projects. And then the cool thing was, there's only 19% of companies surveyed. We had a couple thousand companies surveyed, I think, or 300 or 400 or 500 each week, or whatever that might be. But that only 19% didn't have a project in order. And so we saw that there were a lot of projects in the pipeline. And I think that pipeline and didn't go down. It actually has gone up. And maybe they changed the scope because they realized they had other needs. But what a lot of companies saw was when there were weaknesses, in the key processes that make their business go and successful, they were magnified, right? Because teams had to work remotely. There were new risks that had to be addressed. And so technology helps us stay on top. I mean, things are dynamic, right? Our risks are going to change. We have to be able to see what they are. We have to see them coming down the pipe. We have to see, we need to know how to relate with our customers and our suppliers and communicate with them, but also communicate internally in real time, whether people are remote or on the road. And so just some things on the trends in Treasury technology. Hopefully you finance people. These are things that you're having discussions about with your Treasury team. We have TMS's Treasury Management System, reconciliation software, investment portal for short-term investments if you're lucky enough to do that, payments factory, and then foreign exchange if you have that risk. But what you'll see is that there is a pretty high growth rate there. Also, a link there from my friend Strategic Treasurer. They partnered on this study with my friends at Treasury. So again, a lot just to kind of make the thing that when you're right sizing technology, companies are doing it. Companies of all sizes are doing it, and so the business case is there. You never just want to follow, but sometimes it helps motivate people to say, hey, it was probably going to make sense for us to take a look at these things. And then some of the priorities for automation when we're looking in the treasury management space. Interesting to me, accounting was so high. I'm glad to see that. I'm sure my accounting friends and my controllers out there are happy to see that. Cash management, fraud prevention, and payments was a little bit down there, but it's, it just helps you see if you're not in the treasury world, how many different things are going on, and how technology, the breadth of technology in the business case, right, for that technology can be. So when you're right sizing the technology, you're looking at all the technology, you're looking at, okay, this is what we're doing, this is where we have problems, and then hopefully you might be able to have a system that helps with all of these, right? The right system can offer you that, or you can do a best of breed and do cloud-based solutions when the economics make sense. And then just some FinTech adoption, some increasing investments that we're seeing in the next 12 months. Again, just may get you to think about this as you're going through your budgeting for next year, which is a good time. Digital transformation, cybersecurity, right? Diversity and inclusion, supply chain improvements. And so just interesting to see, right? And so you look at these things, you're like, huh, it's really, more than I thought, in terms of the tech adoption, right? Training for current new employees, I wouldn't have thought that was going to be 52%. I'm glad that there's an investment in this. You have diversity and inclusion initiatives, cybersecurity, and so it just helps you see the breadth of opportunity, right, in the world of technology. And so to get a handle on that technology at the top level, right, how do I right size that technology? And so, yeah, your perspective may be Treasury, but you want to talk to the CFO or who's ever leading the technology and see how it all fits together, because almost always there's ancillary benefits, especially if you're in Treasury and maybe AP and AR doesn't report up to Treasury, while improvements in AP or AR have value to Treasury, and vice versa. And so right sizing Treasury technology, let's go ahead and hit you with another polling question here. Be honest, I'm not going to tell on you. Asking you for your reaction. Do you have the technology you need to optimize the value delivered from Treasury and Finance? I guess I'm asking you, is your technology right size right now? Do you feel like you're in a good place? And it might just be that you feel like you're in a good place, but you just want to see what else is out there. And sometimes that changes your perspective a little bit. It's really hard to keep up on all the different things going on, and you might actually believe that, well, there's no way that technology can do this, or that our company's really complicated. I've never found that I've talked to someone that said that that's honestly ever the case and been proven to fruition. But you have to have the right technology partner and honesty. So I'm going to give you guys another 5 or 10 seconds or so, then we're going to go ahead and take a peek at the results. And then we're going to talk about the benefits of optimizing your Treasury technology. And the first piece of that is optimizing your existing technology. And so as you're right sizing technology, you don't want to overinvest. Maybe you haven't optimized what you currently have. So let's go ahead and close that. Go ahead and take a peek there. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that 46% of you agree. Excuse me. And 11% strongly agree. But I guess that's why some of you are on the webinar today. So hopefully I can help you ask the right questions and help you put yourself in a place to go forward and make that happen. But the other thing that I like to mention is that some of what I do is I connect people together, right? So sometimes I can help you ask the right questions internally. And I have technology partners, but I also have really good connections with your peers. I think I have over 19,000 followers in Treasury and Finance. And so when I was a practitioner, the most value I got oftentimes was talking to somebody else that faced the same challenges, and I wasn't really good at doing that. When I was in Treasury in a little town in Indiana called Bluffton, Indiana. And so what are the benefits of optimization? So you start to get your mindset, maybe you might be a little technology averse, or people on your teams are. When you realize, if you say you have goals on things you want to automate, obviously you're going to have capabilities, right? And it's going to be scalable. It's going to allow you to grow as your business grows. And so you might be looking, when you're looking at investing technology, sometimes that investment is spurred by the fact that you're going to have a lot of M&A activity, you're going to go into new markets, and that's perfectly fine. The last thing that you want to do, again, is let technology dictate your business practices. And so some of the benefits we talked about, inefficiencies, improve your treasury processes. We have the systems in place, but now we also have the change management in place that we can improve our technology integration. So we need to look at that internally and externally. Again, what I just mentioned right after the polling question, you want to maximize your existing investment. And so let's say something, a lot of you agree, you strongly agree you have the right technology. Well, things that you've led, are you getting the most value out of that? Are you getting what was promised? Are you leaving value on the table? Is your FinTech provider reaching out to you for that customer success? How are you tracking success after that? So what were the objectives of that investment? Are things getting better? And then sometimes it's a matter of going out in webinars and seeing these are the 10 things that everyone gets who adopts whatever it might be, and then making sure that you're getting all those benefits and asking why not. And so it's always good. You don't want to change. We'll talk about that a little later about the danger of RFPs, but you don't always want to do that. But you always want to make sure that you're maximizing your investment. And many times I talk to many FinTech providers, and it's almost a shame how much of the functionality is not being realized. And so, yeah, they might be seeing some sort of value, but there's an awful lot that is being left on the table as well. So just some of those benefits, the business case, right? Oftentimes, right-sizing your technology is going to involve in making an investment in not only the technology, but the partner as well. And so that's what I think gets missed oftentimes. And so just identifying some areas of low-hanging fruit, piles and piles of paper, so you can see that physical or virtual. And then, yes, we talk about transformation. Sometimes we want to think about things that are really complicated. But for me, most of you know me, it's about optimizing your cash conversion cycle. And that's where a tremendous amount of value is found by companies. And so if I was looking at a transformation project or a technology transformation project, that is where I would start. And then I believe that having that part of it optimized is only going to fuel the ability of time that people have to spend on maybe some technology that might be versed in FP&A and BI, and maybe some HR systems as well. And so part of this is knowing your team. And so maybe you're the treasurer. Okay, do you talk to the treasury manager, right? Does he know what his team needs? Does he understand? Does he ask his people, what are you spending time on? Do you know if there's too much time creating reports, collecting, compiling data? The amount of time that I see on surveys that I worked on for FP&A folks spent on collecting data, verifying data, and not on analysis is actually staggering. You don't have automated controls, and so we got to have our controls. But are you asking your managers to approve every single expense? Are you asking your managers of internal, maybe they're trying to get stuff done internally, they don't have a purchase cards. They not only do they have to do that, they have to understand the policy. And so are there a lot of one-offs? This is an old term from my day, I think, version lock. But that's one of the good things about cloud computing. Do you have 4 or 5 people working in your business systems only because you've taken an outdated systems and keep on adding onto it and bolting onto it and just making it fit what you've done with your company when it's really not built to do that, rather than taking the one-time pain and getting it to a system that is going to actually help you facilitate growth. And then of course, data, data management, getting the right data, communicating the data in the right format. And also another thing, I just did a webinar last week. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot on dashboards all that much, but I think that's incredibly important. Giving folks a visual tool, right? Maybe on that one screen with your CFO, so they can wake up in the morning and boom, immediately get themselves in their pulse. Okay, take a look at a few things. Boom, maybe you're the treasurer, maybe the controller. You can immediately see those things in real time. The treasury manager, you look at your cash forecasts, and you have the ability to go in, drill down, and even if you're doing oversight, you can click in areas and drill down and see what's going on. But again, from this line of discussion, just helping you identify low-hanging fruit. There's way too much on this slide, so I'm just going to say that and this doesn't even cover the whole office of the CFO. This is really the breadth of of what many companies face, and I would say that many mid-market companies face this, and you want to be ready to face this. Again, there's internal and external tools. Maybe if you have FX risk, maybe you have some commodity risk, treasury and finance. So this is the breadth, just to show you on the integration piece outside with your banks, banking, and then we Excel. We're not going to bash on Excel because it has a lot of value, but just some, just to let you know, optimization, right? If you're looking at that tech stack, there's an awful lot of pieces that go together, and it's not like we want to take the work from IT. We can actually lessen the burden with IT, but we want to make sure that the relevant parties, and so, right, if we're pushing information, treasury and finance tool to a BI, and the BI tool is managed somewhere else, why don't we all talk together about what system you use and why, what system they use and why? And so understand the technology and limitations and opportunities there. And then realizing the value of your tech stack. This is from my friends. I'm at PMC Treasury. I've known these gentlemen for a long time, so I was remiss in not pointing that out. There's a whole session on this if you'd like to see, but realizing the value. So a lot of context on here, but gives you a little bit of a way to look at it, right? Your tech stack, how to right size. You want to look at, we talked about this, your gap analysis. What are best practices in the industry? What about technology adoption? How do you set your roadmap? And to me, this is you have to see where you're at, right, and where you want to go, right? And to me, where you're at, where you want to go. So I would say, for me, it's step 1/2. For me, I would put technology review, maybe 1 or 1A. That might be first for me, right? Review existing technology to see, what does success mean for you? Does this work? And then before we go out and start spending all this money, let's make sure we have our existing technology optimized, right? And then we want to look at, okay, how do we get from A to B? Do we need to just upgrade or add on? And then how do we make it come to life on the implementation side? And that's also dependent on our relationship with our suppliers. Our FinTech providers. Are they providing the training? How much do we lean on them? Are they going to help us through our implementation and then afterwards or not? And then just some emerging technologies. Some of you say, yeah, these have been around a long time, and so we've been talking about these. But it's just, to me, is when I was a mid-market company, publicly traded company, I wouldn't even have thought that these things were possible. But some of the things is a little bit back in the day. Some of this is a little older, but we're still using these systems. Business intelligence, I talked about dashboarding. RPA is robotic process automation. I don't know if it's a buzzword anymore, but it's really about doing the same task over and over, and there's no thinking involved there. And then AI is really where your software in some sense is learning. So let's say there's missing information, you correct it every time. The software will learn how to route invoices, do accounting things, can help you optimize the variance of your cash forecast. And so there's an awful lot to consider here on this right sizing of technology. Again, it can seem overwhelming, but you need to see, okay, where am I at, right? Where is my fit? When you have the visibility, you'll start to look at the low-hanging fruit. So you might want to focus in some areas of low-hanging fruit, get some wins under your belt, and then you might see that this is going to take stages, right? I'm going to get investment consensus with this one software. We're going to implement this, and then we're going to go somewhere else, right? And then you're kind of going from most companies have a little level of technological, I call immaturity, and so that's fine. So how are you going to get to where you need to be to support your business in the next year, maybe the next 5 years, and then you can take it down. What do I need to support my department, and then how does that add value up the chain as well? So right sizing your finance technology. I'll talk about kind of beyond the TMS. I'm sorry if I got too into the Treasury. That's just where I swim quite a bit. I do swim in CFO, just not quite as much as I used to. Some folks, AP does not fall up in the Treasury, so AP automation and AI, T&E expense management and AI. These are things that are out there that you might want to consider. AI automation, cash forecasting. They have FP&A, budgeting and planning automation and AI, and financial close and reporting automation and AI. And so I apologize for not giving enough attention here. I wish I had longer on the budgeting and planning automation and the financial close reporting automation. Just a few comments there, especially on the reporting automation side. You have to understand who the consumers of your information are. And so some companies are still stuck in putting out a bunch of reports that don't add value and don't impact decision making. And so that's important. In your budgeting and planning, you really want to look to facilitate strategic agility there, but you also want to make sure in your budgeting and planning that you're aligned with your Treasury folks on cash forecasting. And so we want to make sure that if there's efforts being done in any kind of forecasting or scenario analysis and budgeting, that we're all on the same page, and that requires communication. And sometimes technology is the best way to facilitate that communication. So just real briefly, some of the bottom line impacts kind of to motivate you folks that might not really dive down too well into AP and T&E. You might think, okay, I need to right size technology. We're fine with AP, T&E, and AR, and maybe you are, but I'd say awful lot of companies still are not. There's a lot of bottom line impacts to AP and T&E done right. If you don't know how much it costs to process an invoice, doing it inefficiently is extremely costly. There's a lot of time misspent resolving supplier issues and disputes. There's a lot of lack of visibility into discounts and also supply chain financing opportunities. There's an awful lot of folks involved in processing, reviewing, and approving your invoices. We want to make sure they're not wasting their time. All in all, payments processing costs, they're huge by payment type, check, ACH, card payment, all those things. It improves working capital management, and you can get rebates from commercial cards. And so sometimes a lot of people, especially if you're a CFO, you might have been out of the weeds a while. It's like you look at AP as the cost of doing business. Now, AFP should not be a profit center. No, don't say that. AFP can offer value, right? We can mitigate cost, but we don't want to say it's a value center, right? Same thing with AR. There's a lot of things that go on in AR that I think Treasury we haven't paid enough attention to, because to me, when I was in Treasury, we never even talked about how the every type of communication with our customer matters, right? So that visibility, we shouldn't be bothering our customers, and sometimes there's not efficiency in Cash App. So why are we communicating with our customers, right? Is there a desired action? What's the tone? What's the tenor? We shouldn't be trying to keep AR and salespeople. Those worlds need to collide, Seinfeld people, right? That's a good thing. So we're talking about the customer relationship. It's a lot of the issues, not a lot, yeah, a lot of the issues. You remove asymmetry of information just internally, right? You might have different areas, bad debt write-off, setting the customer limits, disputes. And so you need to see what's going on with that customer. And then also you should let your customers see, pull it up on the screen and say, they can't say, I owe this. Well, I'm short paying this. No, you're not. Look, it's right in front of you. And so and there's a lot of time spent on the phone that you may or may not realize. And so if you look at right sizing technology, so say you're starting today, then you say, oh, I'm going to right size technology. Any steps that you make to right sizing technology remove an inherent productivity drag across your enterprise. I guarantee every company has a productivity drag. You just might not be aware of it. time inefficiency. And so it's not about reducing headcount, it's about allowing people to spend time on more strategic activities and find new areas to invest that may offer value. Again, a lot of text, but just to give you a sense of just a few areas. And then FP&A done right, you get that business visibility. You can understand the drivers. What we want to do is drive performance across the enterprise. So we need to have visibility into that, right? So you're looking at, okay, what are the positive things of what's driving our revenue, what's driving our costs, what's driving those variances as well. Identify the key drivers of departmental performance, right? And so we start at the, these are different answers, but they have to align. What are the key value drivers at the company level? What about the departmental level? What about the sub-departmental level? So what are those drivers of departmental performance? Can we understand those? Can we understand the relationships between those? And how do we understand which levers to pull and buttons to push there? And FP&A done right can help empower data-driven decision-making across the enterprise. And so good data at the right time improves decision-making. And yes, you can quantify the value of that information as well. And so just from that FP&A perspective done right. And again, there's synergies between these things as well. So some of the challenges in terms of visibility with one solution can be mitigated, but a lot to consume, I understand, but there's a lot to this. And so I will share that. So you can print out the presentation, take a look and say, okay, let me take a look at this chunk. And I will say, I have a webinar that deals just with that, or I can point you to a webinar that does just that, right? And so, you know, you can start at the top and kind of work your way down, work in your area. Might help you have conversations with someone, maybe in Treasury and Finance, FP&A, and have those conversations, right? And see how departments can put their shoulders together and maybe win an investment in technology that's a win-win. So what about managing your relationships with your FinTech partners? And so talked about all the great things you want to look at for your FinTech, right? And so you want to look at, this is where we're at, right? This is where we want to get to drive our success. This is the technology that we need to do that. Just the technology, right? But you need to look at, okay, who am I going to choose to help me implement this technology? How am I going to know that I'm getting the most bang for my buck in terms of the ROI for my technology? And so we're going to take a little Dr. Phil detour for you, even though it's a technology title webinar. You need to communicate your expectations. So, and we'll talk about whether you issue an RFP or RFI in a minute. You need to communicate what your expectations are. Let's be honest and authentic. And then ask each partner what they need from you to deliver value from you. So if they say, you're going to talk to my customer success guy, well, what does that mean, right? How do you measure that? How can I help you? What do you need from me to be able to tell me how to use your solution and optimize your solution, or even help us both understand if this is the right fit? Understand the expectations of those providing products or services to you, right? Especially, this makes more sense, I think, for us Treasury folks. I'm on the bank side, right? And then realign on expectations, right? As things change, so maybe when you bought a solution, something changed, and it might not be your FinTech provider's fault. Say, hey, we're going to need to do this, and they're like, can your solution do that? Are you guys, is this in development? What are your suggestions there? And then especially when things change, such as during COVID, right? You need to realign on what your expectations are. Often it really helps on that side of it. And then it's really a balance, and this works, in anything you're doing, right? You have to have communication. Communication adds to collaboration, and then productivity is the intersection, right? So you communicate, you get together, get the right information at the right time to the right people, and that leads to productivity. And then it's kind of a circle too as well. But intelligence, data is only, I don't think data is not intelligent, it's not a human being, but when someone says it's intelligence, it's only intelligence if it impacts decision making, if it helps someone make better decisions. So you can say it's a report. It's not an intelligence if no one uses the data. If the data is not valuable, if it's not good, if it's not impacting decisions, if it doesn't have the even the possibility of doing so is not intelligence. Just some things for me, and I've never been perfect. I mean, I've learned an awful lot. When I was a Treasury practitioner, I was not a good customer in terms of the way I related with my folks. So I've learned and I've listened, talking to Treasury and finance leaders the last 10 years, but it never hurts to listen. Those of you that know me say, Ernie, you need to listen better. You're right. Listen, listen, listen. And then learn the professional language of your colleagues, right? If you are, if you're looking for a CRM system or AR automation system, learn the language, right, of AR. And if you're looking for a system and you're the CFO, sorry, but you shouldn't be the one having conversations. You should bring in the person that's going to use the system, right? So you're speaking apples to apples. And then ask your on the other side what their biggest work challenges are. Make sure they understand what yours are, right? In your relationship, help them do better at their jobs. If you have bad news to communicate, maybe you're going to have to delay a project, or you don't have the money anymore. Let's communicate that bad news proactively. And then build trust with your colleagues, your partners, so they have no fear in communicating bad news to you proactively. Maybe they need to tell you, hey, our new release isn't coming out. Hey, we found a bug in that. Wouldn't you rather know than being blindsided from that? And so part of the relationship, right, it comes from right from the start. If you're looking to invest in a specific solution to help you with solve a problem or get to best practice, let's not just all issue RFPs, right? You might have an RFI, right? Explore how a vendor might solve a problem need. RFQ, you might want to know what it costs. And then RFP is really when you put someone through the ringer a little bit, but let's be careful of when we do that. So make sure that it's valid, it's fair, and it helps you make a decision. And so just a little information there on what those specifically mean. And also this is good for teaching your staff, right? Maybe they're a new Treasury manager and you're asking them to look at stuff. They're immediately probably going to say RFP, RFP, RFP. So you have to kind of educate them on how the process should work to build relationships with your potential suppliers. And so even if it's not for a certain thing, maybe if you keep going back to a bank partner, keep sending them RFPs that they're not really in the running for, guess what? It's going to damage your relationship. And they might be the absolute best partner for something that can make a big impact for your company, but they're not motivated to fill out your RFP in the way that should get your attention, right? And so just for the issuer here, issuing, right? We have to know that there's a need for a change in a Treasury or finance transaction. We need to make sure we have the resources available, right? Our internal team, maybe even an external advisor, and outline the requirements that we're going to have. We need to communicate internally and with our providers about our timeliness and evaluation criteria. And internally, we need to select the appropriate vendors without vendor bias. And then we need to have a crisp process. And so that's going to help us make the process as painless as possible for those. So we want to identify the right partner. So how can we don't want to discourage the partner from giving us the very best that they have. So let's not ask them questions that don't matter. Let's show them that we're organized. Let's motivate them to work with our team, because they can see that we're going to give a big impact to them. FinTech providers love to work with companies where you could be the ultimate case study, and you should be willing to be the ultimate case study. You want to really get some loyalty from a FinTech provider. If they do it right, go out and speak on webinars with them at conferences, you will get the best service you've ever imagined. So I want to say, how do you inspire customer success and commitment from your FinTech providers? This seems like it's common sense, but a lot of people that I've talked to, they are transactional. Even when they're okay, I got the technology, that's good. Now it's my team, my job, my IT department. We're going to do it all. See you later. They don't realize the value, and they don't realize that they have the right to expect more from their FinTech partners. You should set the expectations, timelines. This is implementation that we want. This is a support that we want. I'm going to have a vendor scorecard for you. And this is how we're going to define success after the project's over with your technology. And this is how we're going to use it. And then from the other side, they should be asking you, are you utilizing it? Are you seeing what you need? How can we help more? And of course, it's easier now because a lot of the solutions are SaaS based, right? Or they're subscription billing. And so they have to earn your business. And so I'm not telling you not to do a long-term contract, but in most cases, you got to do the pricing right. But if you're really kind of unsure of the provider, if it's a really close between a first and a second, and customer service, is really going to make the difference on something works. Maybe you want to do a shorter contract. Maybe you do it 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, so you can back out. The good news is, if you're going to be able to move from different cloud applications, you'll be able to move that data, and you won't cause too big of a hiccup in your business. Explain the importance of the solution meeting and exceeding your expectations, not only for you, but your career. A lot of me in Treasury, I only got like one swing at choosing a software and a solution, so I need to do it right. And so when I'm talking to my FinTech partners, who's going to be my contact after the implementation's over? I want that person to understand what this means to me and have them have some accountability in it. Again, communicate how you define success to them and report that to them and let them know. Create a provider scorecard, and then again, be willing to give that testimonial if they earn it. This is a little terse for people that aren't really involved in Treasury. One example is that understanding how you're valued. So banks value us on a RAROC, so we can communicate that. So if we understand the value to our banks, right, that can help us say, oh, okay, you get the most value from me here, and so you meet the criteria here. So we're informed, we're making data-driven decisions, right? So we know what our value is, right, to our client, and then we can see how we can add value to our relationship. It's a two-way street. We'd like to, it's pretty common, it used to be common to have a relationship scorecard. So it's just a tool, so you can provide feedback on your perceptions on quality of what you're doing. So let's get on the same page, right? And then share that evaluation only with your service provider. So you're not trying to beat them over the head with it. It's like you want to improve the quality. And then when you're developing a scorecard, ask your providers to be involved in it, right? And get everyone that is impacted by that FinTech provider to be a part of that, and make sure that you understand all the dimensions of that relationship, and then ask them, right? Hey, why don't you give me a scorecard about how we're doing as a customer? I'm sure you can see how we're utilizing your software. If you're reaching out to us with questions or whatever, how are we doing? So again, you want to build that trusted relationships. Then just to wrap things up on a little bit of a different take, what about right-sizing your technology for your professional success? So for your team, not only your success, but your professional success, where you might not think, do your folks have the right computer, right, that they need? Do they have the right speed? Do they have the right camera? Do they have the right computing power? What about your cell phone? What about their cell phone? What about LinkedIn? Do they have a subscription to LinkedIn? Do they know how to use LinkedIn to network, to business development, to interact with their peers? What's your virtual meeting tool? Is that effective? Do you have Zoom or Google Meet? And then technology, I love this tool, Slack. It's really organized for email. And so when you're looking about right-sizing technology, think of all the ways that technology can help you. So all the things that you see as taking up too much of your time or could help you. So let's look at that professional success as well. And so just some key takeaways. I'm going to go ahead and launch final polling question, which is really around asking you if you're interested to learn about how technology can help you in the payments risk, payments mitigation, payments optimization space, just because that's the space where my sponsor plays, and their commitment to thought leadership is so evident because, as you noted, I have not said that name the whole time, and I have not focused on payments the entire time. So that's why I can tell you that they have a strong commitment to thought leadership. And if you go to the Sapulty website, they have amazing content. So key takeaways: formally define treasury and finance success, right? Do an in-depth assessment of all your systems. Identify the technology gaps that inhibit the value you deliver, right? Prioritize your technology wants versus your technology needs. And you should really embrace technology as your new best friend and really inspire your team to do so as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up. for another few seconds or so. I want to take another few moments to once again thank my strategic partner for today's webinar, Departmental. They share my commitment to thought leadership, but more importantly, to serving the Treasury and finance professions. And so finally, to each and every one of you, I value each and every one of you. I sincerely hope that you get value out of these webinars. If not, please let me know how I can get better. Make the rest of your day great, everyone. Thank you.